I'd just like to give you a little bit of an insight into some work that we've been doing through the CSEF, through the Centre, in collaboration particularly with Manchester University, with whom we are very closely related both geographically, we're just a couple of miles away, but also over a relationship which has developed over many years of great synergy in how we as a food manufacturer have been working with the Sustainable Chemical Engineering Department, who, to my surprise a few years ago, were world leaders in understanding environmental impacts, management and control, and particularly life cycle analysis and footprinting. So I'll just give you a little bit of an insight into that. First of all, starting with Kellogg's. Many of you will know us as a breakfast cereal manufacturer. We also do snacks, and we also now own Pringles. But we are primarily a grains-based company using corn, rice, wheat, sugar, cocoa, fruit, nuts, other ingredients to produce primarily breakfast cereals. We have commitments out in public about what we are trying to do in the area of sustainability. Particularly about low-carbon energy, about reducing emissions, about reducing water, but also about responsible sourcing of ingredients and packaging and into agriculture. So those commitments are out there in public since last year, and it's my job to work within Kellogg's and to collaborate externally to make them actually happen. One of the ways we've done that is working with Manchester University, working through the CSEF consortium to help us, first of all, understand how to do that and where to start. And here's some examples of some tools that have been extremely useful to orientate us and to help us to prioritize what we can actually do. First of all, a business level hotspot analysis, so looking at all the environmental impacts of our total business, not just of a product, not just of a sub-function or a service, but of our total, in this case, European business. I'll show you some results of that later. Doing a life cycle analysis of selected products. I can remember doing 3 of these, which were very, very insightful, and then we got bored, because actually product carbon footprinting, to me, is very limited in use. We did Frosties, great, it told us a lot about a corn product. We did Special K, before and after a recipe change, and it shows the difference. But the absolute numbers of life cycle of individual products weren't particularly exciting to us, because they basically didn't help us to understand total business level what we could make a difference with and how we could change. We have done life cycle analysis on packaging alternatives, and we have used life cycle analysis to identify energy efficiency opportunities through identifying the drivers which are behind the products, which are behind the business activities to which it pertains. So LCA has been a very, very important tool because it gives us the facts, it gives us the data, and it gives us the prioritization of where we need to start and prioritize to make a difference. So, hotspot analysis, we're looking for the hotspots, we're looking for the improvement opportunities, not just within our own factories. In our naivety 5 or 6 years ago, we thought that most of the problems, most of the opportunities lay within the 4 walls of the factory. Not the case. I'll show you that later. We now find ourselves having to work right through from, as I say, seed to spoon, looking at the whole of the agricultural cycle, the upstream supply chain, through to retail consumption and disposal. And that's been a journey for us, a journey of discovery, which we couldn't have done without the collaboration with Manchester University and with consortia like CSEF. A bit about Kellogg Europe. We're a very complex business. You know, we have offices across Europe. We have factories, UK, Germany, Spain, Poland. And when you look at where the ingredients come from, it gets even more complicated. You know, we are a global business. We have a global supply chain of both ingredients coming in and products going out. And it's very difficult to untangle what effectively looks like a bowl of spaghetti there to find out really what's what and where you should start. So when we did the business level hotspot analysis with Manchester University, this is what we found. That actually if you look at the manufacturing proportion, where we thought the challenge and the opportunity was, it's only 23% of the emissions of our whole chain. Whereas when we look at the raw materials coming in, which is growing the materials, transporting them in, milling them and preparing them for use, it's almost half. And that was a real insight that sort of reoriented our thinking. And it's that helped us move on a couple of years ago to say it's not just about doing great work like we have done, reducing energy per tonne by about 16-17%, reducing emissions by 30%, reducing water by 32%, eliminating waste to landfill across our European plants. Those have all been great achievements, but they've all been focused in this 23% of the total pie. Now, through our collaboration with Manchester University, we're able to say, so what about the rest? What about the other 3/4? How can we balance that and bring that in? And that's why our commitments last year moved to include the upstream chain and transport packaging from seed to spoon. When we break down those raw materials, it gets even more interesting because we use approximately 1/3 wheat, 1/3 rice, and 1/3 maize. Look down the supermarket aisle, you'll see that. However, the emissions that we see in our total product portfolio, very, very different. Corn, maize, very, very low. Wheat, mid-range. Rice, high. Why? Methane emissions in paddy fields, methane being a very aggressive, high factor greenhouse gas. Rice is one of our most impactful ingredients. So working through, it's not just about carbon footprint. We also looked at all the other impacts as well, particularly eutrophication, land use, water footprint and scarcity-related water footprint. A lot of that comes from upstream, a lot of it comes from the agricultural practices. So we can't just look at the factories, we've got to go look upstream as well. Improvement opportunities, therefore, coming out of this work of the analysis with Manchester and the collaboration with CSEF. Highlights are, first of all, trying to do something in that 48%, which is the agriculture. So I now work with over 100 farmers in 6 groups across 4 countries, particularly on rice, but also now on wheat, trying to help them with raw resource efficiency, trying to help them to reduce that footprint out in the field. The other one that came out was modifying recipe design. We know that if we change the recipe, the mixture of ingredients, we can do a number of things. We can reduce emissions, we can actually improve taste, quality, we can actually make products more consistent and more reliable. We found a sweet spot, if you like, of not only improving the environmentals, but actually we can re-engineer products to give a win-win-win. So for example, by reducing the amount of rice but increasing the amount of whole grain wheat, we're able to improve nutrition, fibre, minerals, reduce costs, and reduce the carbon and water footprints as well. So we're always looking for win-win-win scenarios. And the analysis, the life cycle analysis, is critical in identifying those opportunities and confirming that when we've done it, it actually delivers. The next one will be energy efficiency. That's in our plants, in our factories, which is still at 23%. And some of that's relatively low-tech. It's behavioural, it's control system and software. But there's some real gems in there that we've discovered through our collaboration. I mean, like Nick, I get excited about ORC, about organic Rankine cycle potential for recovering low-grade heat, of which we in the food and drink industry have loads and loads and loads. But you know what? We in Kellogg's, nowhere in the world do we actually recover that. And I think that's one of the real gems that we got for the future, that we could do so much more. And being part of CSEF gives us access to people who've already done it, people who've got the technology, but also people who know how to do it, sell it, implement it, and make it work. So that's another of the opportunities. And then the last one we've got is packaging. The bag in the box that doesn't fit in your cupboard. If you walk down the cereal aisle now, you see a lot of new products in bags with resealable tops. Less packaging. Resealable top means less food waste, means less lost resources, lost emissions, more flexibility for the consumer. The only problem is it's not recyclable, so we have a consumer perception issue. But from a technical point of view, a bag with a resealable top is far better than a bag in the box. And those are all examples where this life cycle has given us the insight as to what the opportunities are and where to prioritise. Again, collaboration. We can't do things on our own, particularly in agriculture. You know, we buy a relatively small percentage of the hectares, of the acres around Europe, around the world. We have to collaborate with third-party organisations. We can do that sometimes directly with companies, for example, other companies that buy rice, or through a consortia like the Sustainable Rice Platform. And there are many of these organisations around, one of the most famous being the SAI Platform, Sustainable Agriculture Initiative, which promotes collaboration in the agricultural space, because we can't do it on our own. Well, I'll skip on recipe design, go through, because we're running over time, straight through to conclusions to say, finally, I recommend collaboration as a gateway to identifying opportunities in your whole chains. As we've done, don't just look at your own factories, but look upstream and look downstream. And collaborate with people in those spaces, and collaborate with organisations, world-class organisations like Manchester, like Brunel, like Birmingham, and many others as well. Identify your hotspots and prioritise them. But look at all those opportunities there. Don't just cherry-pick one of them. Look at how the whole chain hangs together. Because we in the food industry have not been good at doing that. And therefore, we need this step change that we've talked about earlier. We need to look at this nexus that Eloise talked about here of the climate, the emissions, the water, and the food system. We need to think like a system from the seed to the spoon, not just for one product, like cornflakes or Frosties, not just for one company, like Kellogg's, but as an industry. And that's why you guys here today are critically important in being able to enable that to happen. We have to learn together, we have to implement together, and we have to learn from each other. Don't reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of technology and know-how out there. There's a lot of new research coming through, such as through CSEF. Harness it, use it, and collaborate in its deployment. And just remember, as the climate change, remember, you've got to think differently, you've got to act differently. You may, but you don't have to, dress differently.